Hi students, welcome to session 6 of solutions chapter. Until now we have understood the vapor pressure of solutions containing both liquid components, liquid solutions, right? Now today's session also is an extension of that. So before I start discussing this session, if any of you is still not clear with the concept of Raoult's law for liquid solutions, if any of you are not still clear with ideal solutions, non-ideal solutions with positive deviation and non-ideal binary liquid solutions with negative deviation, then stop this video, go back, listen to that again, get full command over that, all the formulae, concepts, principles, everything, and then come back to this. Okay, so without fullest command on Raoult's law for binary liquid solutions, this session cannot be understood. Disclaimer is over. Now, today's topic is fractional distillation and azeotropic mixtures. The term azeotropic mixture is new to you. You don't know it. But the term fractional distillation is very familiar to you. You must have studied that petroleum products are fractionally distilled in order to get all the components like petrol, diesel, everything from it. Now, fractional distillation is separation of liquid solutions, separation of components in a liquid solutions based on the difference in their boiling points. Up to this also you know very well. Yes or no? Now, in today's session, we are going to understand more technicalities behind it, more clarity of thought we are going to develop on the scientific principles behind a well-known phenomenon called fractional distillation, because you know only the name or maybe what happens and maybe how it happens, but you don't know all the scientific principles behind fractional distillation. With more than 80% clarity of thought, we are going to understand the scientific principles behind fractional distillation, and then we are going to learn a new term called azeotropic mixture, which will be introduced to you. Once this is understood, this will be very easy, not an issue. Shall we proceed? Now, in order to understand fractional distillation and further azeotropic mixtures, I have taken up a question on Raoult's law. Why do we have to solve question to understand a concept? Don't worry, eventually you will understand what I am trying to say here. Please understand. To learn azeotropic mixtures, which is our main syllabus actually, to learn azeotropic mixtures, you need to learn fractional distillation clearly. If required, I can give away the information. This is azeotropic mixture, this is an example. But when we strive for clarity of understanding, we need to learn fractional distillation clearly. And understanding of fractional distillation can be made better through a conclusion made at the end of this question. At the same time, this question helps you develop a bit of perspective towards Raoult's law also. And at the same time, these liquid solutions and their separation, etc. That's why first we are going to solve this question. At the end of this question, we are going to draw some conclusions. Based on those conclusions, we are going to understand fractional distillation. Based on our understanding of fractional distillation, we are going to learn azeotropic mixtures. That is the future of this session. That's why first this question is important. See, 1 mole each of 2 liquids A and B are mixed in a piston type vessel, means a vessel containing a piston using which you can increase or decrease pressure. Okay, now the piston is moved slowly and isothermally, means the process is being conducted at a constant temperature, means only effect of pressure we are studying here. We'll come to temperature later at the end when we make conclusions, but this question is dealing with effect of pressure. Now, the pure liquid A has a vapor pressure of 75 torr at any given temperature. At that given temperature, Pure liquid B has a vapor pressure of 25 bar. Then he is asking you, find the pressure when the first bubble is formed. What is the meaning of the first bubble? The liquid is starting to evaporate, right? When the liquid starts to evaporate, when the commencement of evaporation, so bubble here means vapor. The commencement of evaporation, the point at which evaporation is just commenced, he is talking about. So find the pressure when first bubble is formed and also find the composition of the first bubble. Means what is the mole fraction of liquid A and liquid B in that first bubble. Moving ahead, find the pressure when last drop of liquid is remaining. What does this mean? Complete evaporation is over. Last drop means almost liquid is over, completely it has reached to vapor state. Then that last drop is left out for becoming complete vapor. That's what he is meaning. So find the pressure when last drop of liquid is remaining. So first bubble, at what pressure first bubble is formed? At what pressure last drop of liquid is remaining. Then find the pressure range in which liquid and vapor will coexist. Means the two extreme pressure values between which it will exist as both liquid and vapor. Means there is a pressure above which it will be purely liquid. There is a pressure below which it will be purely vapor. You must by now have analyzed that if you pressurize, liquid cannot evaporate, because you are reducing the freedom of the molecule. So at high pressure, it tries to remain liquid. At low pressure, it tries to become vapors. Now he is asking the range in which liquid vapor coexist. That means the highest pressure above which it will always be liquid and lowest pressure below which it will always be vapor. In between that, it will be both liquid and vapor. So what is the range of that pressure? And lastly, some numerical question. If out of 2 mole mixture, he has taken 1 mole each, right? So both liquids are together 2 moles. Out of 2 mole mixture, if 1 mole is vaporized at some pressure P, at what pressure it will be vaporized? Means he is asking for exactly half of the mixture to vaporize completely, what pressure it takes. Understand? Now, I'll move away from the screen. Either take screenshot or you pause it and note down the question first onto your notebook. Read the question again and see if you can solve it and then come back to it. Okay, so I'll give you 10 seconds to take a screenshot or pause or note down the question. Okay, I'm moving off. Okay, now let us solve the question. Hope you have tried yourself first. At least you gave a thought towards it what to do. Now I am going to the question. Let us solve it and arrive at some conclusions related to the solution and then understand fractional distillation, the principle, theoretical principle behind fractional distillation. Okay, right. So let us visualize the problem. Okay, see, we are given a vessel which contains a piston, movable piston. Okay, now a liquid mixture is taken which is a mixture of the two liquids A and B, and it has been mentioned that number of moles of A is 1, number of moles of B is also 1. Obviously, when number of moles of A and B are equal, mole fractions also will be equal, because sum of the mole fractions has to be 1. When the mole fractions are equal, it will be 0.5 each, half each. Right? Now, he is trying to increase or decrease the pressure using the piston. This region contains liquid and this region will be containing the vapor. Now, remember I was talking to you in the last session about the mole fraction or the composition of liquids in the vapor phase. I was asking you to consider mole fraction in the vapor phase as X dash A, X dash B. But for a little better clarity and no confusion, because both places X to avoid that confusion, let me assume mole fraction in the vapor phase as Ya and Yb. That means if the liquid goes on vaporizing, vapors of both A and B will be formed here because both the components are volatile, of course. Since vapors of both A and B are formed, in the vapor phase, the mole fraction of A, let us assume it as Ya, mole fraction of B, let us assume it as Yb, instead of calling X dash A and X dash B. Clear? Now, this is the picture we have here. Now, as I was just explaining you, if you increase the pressure, the freedom of liquid molecules is reduced, so evaporation becomes difficult. When you decrease the pressure, I am showing upwards decreasing the pressure because piston has to be released. So when you decrease the pressure, the freedom of molecules increases, so vaporization becomes easier. So for evaporation to occur, lower pressure is favorable. Clear? That we got the picture. Now let us come to the first question he is asking, that is in first question, the first part he is asking is pressure at which first bubble is formed. Pressure at which first bubble is formed. This is the question, right? Means he is asking you to assume that initially we have pure liquid, no evaporation happened. Now formation of first bubble, bubble means vapor, please understand. So the formation of first bubble indicates the commencement of vaporization, just the beginning of vaporization, which means vapors are almost nil, which means that the vapors are almost nil. Now vapors are almost nil means I can understand in liquid phase number of moles of A is still 1, number of moles of B is still 1. That means the mole fractions in the liquid phase I can take as XA is equal to 0.5 and XB is equal to 0.5. That is, the mole fractions are half each. At this stage, what will be the pressure? That is what he is asking. Now, you know the formula PA is equal to PA naught into XA and PB is equal to PB naught into XB, and total pressure must be equal to sum of the partial vapor pressures. Now please understand, whatever the vapor pressures are being generated, that is equal to the pressure exerted here. So PA naught is given 75 torr into XA is half, which comes out to be 37.5 torr if I am not wrong. PB naught is given to be 25 torr into mole fraction is half, which comes out to be 12.5 torr. Therefore, PT comes out to be 37.5 plus 12.5, that is equal to exactly 50 torr. That means, please understand, the highest possible pressure at which vaporization may happen is 50 torr. That means if the pressure is above 50 torr, no vaporization will happen because pressure opposes the vaporization, and we have established that 50 torr is the pressure at which the first bubble is formed. Means it is the maximum possible pressure which can initiate the vaporization. If it is more than this, no vaporization will occur. Below this, vaporization will proceed. Is that clear? Now, the second part of the first question he is asking is composition of the bubble. Composition of the bubble. Now, bubble is the vapor phase of the liquid, we have just established. That means composition of the bubble, that is mole fraction of A and B in bubble, is nothing but Ya and Yb, as I have told you just now. Now remember Dalton's law of partial pressure. According to Dalton's law of partial pressure, I told you partial pressure of a given component is equal to mole fraction of that gaseous component into total pressure of the mixture of gas. Therefore, Pa is equal to Ya into Pt, or Ya is equal to Pa by Pt. Now, PA is how much? We have just understood PA is 37.5 divided by what is the total pressure when the bubble was formed? 50. 37.5 by 50, which comes out to be 3 by 4 approximately. Similarly, PB is equal to YB into PT. That is, partial pressure of one of the component gases is equal to mole fraction of that gas into total pressure of the mixture of gases. Here these are mixture of gases, right, in vapor state. So, substituting YB is equal to PB by PT, you get 25 divided by 50. Sorry, what the YB we got, PB we got was 12.5. PB naught is 25. So 12.5 divided by 50, which comes out to be 1 by 4. So the mole fractions in the vapor phase of A and B are YA is 3 by 4 and YB is 1 by 4 when the pressure is 50 torr, that is maximum pressure at which vaporization could start. Okay, so the composition is 3 by 4 and 1 by 4. There ends our discussion of first problem of this situation. Okay, so he has asked you at what pressure would the first bubble be formed? Means there was a high pressure maybe, so it was purely liquid. Please understand that. I was maintaining a very high pressure, that's why it was purely liquid. I went on relaxing pressure, and when I reached 50 torr, at that temperature, we are maintaining a constant temperature. So when I reached 50 torr, the first bubble started. Because it is just the first bubble, the vapor phase is almost negligible. That's why I assumed total number of moles of A and B are equal to that of liquid only. Assuming that, I have calculated the total pressure using the Raoult's law. Then using that total pressure, using Dalton's law, I found out the mole fraction of A and B in their vapor state in that bubble that is just formed when I relax the pressure to 50 torr. Clear? Now, what is the second question he was asking you? Probably I'll erase this. Keep the space peaceful. Now, the second question he is asking us is the pressure at which last drop of liquid is left out. Pressure at which last drop of liquid is left. Right? Now you see, last drop of liquid left. What does it mean? I went on relaxing at 50 torr. For the first time evaporation started, first bubble is formed. Now I continued relaxing, bubbles, completely liquid went on vaporizing and reached a stage where completely it is vapors and left with only one drop of liquid. Means here you can understand almost 100% vaporization is over. That means what is left out now? Previously when we considered first bubble, we considered entirely liquid is there. Now only one drop of liquid is left out, means entirely it has become vapor. That means I can assume that number of moles of A in vapor state is equal to 1 and number of moles of B in vapor state is equal to 1 now. That means entire 1 mole of A became vapors, entire 1 mole of B became vapors. Then in this case, mole fraction in vapor phase YA will be equal to half. Mole fraction in vapor phase of B, YB will be equal to half. Because now liquid has completely become vapors. They are asking at what pressure would this happen. So you have to relate YA and YB to total pressure now, at which this might happen. Is that clear? For achieving that, I'll again go back to Dalton's law. According to Dalton's law, PA is equal to YA into PT, we know that. Now from Raoult's law, you know that I am combining Dalton's law and Raoult's law now. From Raoult's law, you know that PA is nothing but PA naught into XA. Therefore, PA naught into XA is equal to YA into PT, or let me write XA, that is mole fraction in liquid phase, is equal to Ya, that is mole fraction in vapor phase, into total pressure exhibited by the vapors divided by vapor pressure of liquid A in pure state. On same grounds, Pb is equal to Yb into Pt, which I can write it as Pb naught into Xb is equal to Yb into Pt. Therefore, Xb, that is mole fraction of liquid B in liquid state, is equal to mole fraction of B in vapor state into total vapor pressure of both the vapors divided by vapor pressure of B in its pure state. Now you know very well that XA plus XB must be equal to 1. Now I have an expression for XA here, I have an expression for XB here. So let me write Ya into Pt by Pa naught plus Yb into Pt by Pb naught. Please understand, by combining Raoult's law and Dalton's law, I arrived at expressions for XA and XB, that is mole fractions of liquids in liquid phase with respect to total pressure as well as mole fractions in vapor phase. Please understand that. Now since XA plus XB is equal to 1, I am adding these two expressions and equal to 1. Now divide by Pt, divide the whole expression by Pt. Then here Pt gets cancelled and becomes 1 by Pt. So Ya by Pa naught plus Yb by Pb naught is equal to 1 by Pt. Let us substitute here. Ya is half, Yb is half, Pa naught is 75, Pb naught is 25. The vapor pressures of pure liquids as given in the problem. So Ya by Pa naught, I can write it as half divided by 75 plus half divided by 25 is equal to 1 by Pt. Now I need to arrive at Pt, that will be the total pressure when mole fraction in vapor state will be half each. That means when entire liquid has become vaporized, what is the total pressure we are calculating? Are you able to understand? So 1 by 150 plus 1 by 50 is equal to 1 by Pt. Here the LCM comes out to be 150. 3 plus 1, 4 by 150 is equal to 1 by Pt, or Pt will be equal to 150 by 4. If you calculate, it comes out to be 37.5 torr. Now what did you understand? The minimum pressure at which the minimum pressure required for complete evaporation of this liquid mixture A and B, whose pure state vapor pressures are 75 torr and 25 torr respectively, will be 37.5 torr. Now your question number C is automatically answered. Okay, I'll use this space here to directly answer your question number C. See, it's simple. 50 torr we established. See, at highest pressure, it was purely liquid. You went on relaxing pressure. At 50 torr, the first bubble is formed. That means evaporation started at 50 torr for a given temperature. Now you went on relaxing at 37.5 torr, it became completely vapors. Means what do you understand? Above 50 torr, assume my upper hand is 50 torr, my lower hand is 37.5 torr. Above 50 torr, purely liquid. Below 37.5 torr, purely vapor. Because at 37.5 torr, last drop is left out. So after 37.5 torr, what you are left with is only vapor. That means in between 50 and 37.5 torr. That means 37.5 torr and 50 torr. In between this pressure, you will find both liquid and vapor. Some liquid becoming vapor, some vapor converting into liquid, etc. So please understand, here there is a possibility for equilibrium. Above this, below this, the process is in one direction. So accordingly, the pressure range, that was your third question, right? The pressure range at which liquid vapor coexist. The pressure range at which liquid vapor coexist will be 37.5 torr to 50 torr. That is automatically answered. Now let us go to the third part of the problem, which is a numerical based on this analysis we have done so far. Okay. Now, the fourth part of the question is the pressure at which 1 mole of liquid evaporates. That's what he is asking, right? 1 mole of liquid mixture evaporates. There were 2 moles, totally 1 mole A, 1 mole B, there was 2 moles totally. It has to become 1 mole exactly, he is saying. Now, we have already established that 2 mole A plus B mixture to become 0 mole A plus B liquid mixture, that means completely to evaporate, for entire 2 moles to become vapors, that is 2 mole to become 0 moles, it changed from 50 tar to 37.5 tar. Means you are seeing a total change of 12.5 tar. Yes or no? So 2 moles to become 0 mole, if it takes 12.5 tars, then 2 moles to become 1 mole, how much difference will it be? 6.25, half of it, right? 6.25. Now, from 50 tar, 6.25 tar has to be reduced in order for 1 mole to evaporate. So, 50 minus 6.25. It comes out to be 43.75 tar if I am not wrong. Is that clear? So, your question D, the pressure at which 1 mole of liquid exactly evaporates and 1 mole of liquid remains in liquid phase would be 43.75 tar. Now, sir, why did you even solve this question? You wanted to teach us fractional distillation and you solved a problem based on Raoult's law and gave us some information. How does it help us understand fractional distillation? Of course, I am coming to that. Solving this question was not at all our aim, but if you solve the question, scenario will be understood correctly. That's why I solved the question. Now, what I am going to do is represent this question graphically. Graphical representation of this question is what will lead us to fractional distillation. Wait and watch. Now you see, I am going to draw an isotherm for vapor pressure versus composition. I am going to draw an isotherm for vapor pressure versus composition, where the x-axis represents composition, and let us assume left extreme mole fraction of A is 1, right extreme mole fraction of B is 1, means here mole fraction of B is 0, here mole fraction of A is 0. Clear? Now, the y-axis represents the vapor pressure upwards. Okay. Now, as they have given you, pure liquid A had a vapor pressure of 75 tar. Now, which point in this axis represents vapor pressure of pure liquid? A point against mole fraction of A is equal to 1. So, somewhere here. Assume this is your PA0, which is 75 tar. Similarly, he told PB0 is 25 tar. And PB0 is the point on y-axis where mole fraction of B is equal to 1, that is pure liquid B. So let us assume this point. Let us call it PB0, which is equal to 25 tar as he has mentioned. Now, as you know very well, as we have studied from Raoult's law last session, the vapor pressure of solution lies in between the vapor pressure of the pure liquids. That means the vapor pressure of solution will be more than this and less than this. It will be in between this, that we have already established from the formula of Raoult's law, and we have already drawn graphs if you remember. So, if I join these two, this curve no doubt represents the vapor pressure of solution varying with composition. Clear? Now, as per this formula, it was at this composition, that is XA is equal to half and XB is equal to half. That means exactly center of it, that we were talking about change in liquid into vapor or vapor into liquid, right? Now, if you extend this graph like this, what do you understand? See, this is representing highest pressure. When the pressure is very high, it is liquid. This part represents the lowest pressure. When the pressure is very low, the liquid will be vapor. That means at very low pressures, liquid it completely exists as vapor. At very high pressure, it completely exists as liquid. Now we consider pressure being decreased step by step, right? It was pure liquid. The problem started with pure liquid becoming vapor, seeing first bubble, right? So I went on decreasing pressure, decreasing pressure, decreasing pressure, decreasing pressure, decreasing pressure, and at this point, which is called 50 torr as per our calculations. If you remember, at this point called 50 torr, you saw the first bubble, right? This is called the bubble point. This is called the bubble point. So please observe, bubble point represents liquid phase of the substance, because that is the first time you are seeing a gaseous substance. So above bubble point, it is purely liquid. Now you please understand, for this composition, this was the bubble point, 50 torr was the bubble point. Not from this problem, but any other context, if you take different compositions, the bubble point may be formed. That means this whole curve represents various loci of bubble points. That's why this curve can be named as bubble point curve. What do you call it? Bubble point curve. That is loci of bubble points at various compositions, at different compositions. Loci of bubble points at different compositions. That's why you can call this as a bubble point curve. And remember, bubble point curve represents the liquid phase of the substance, because above bubble point curve, the liquid will be absolutely, it will be purely liquid. Point. Now, I went on decreasing the pressure, went on decreasing the pressure, went on decreasing the pressure, and at some point, I am left with the last droplet of liquid. Or from the bottom, if I come, very low pressure, it was vapor, purely vapor. I went on increasing the pressure, increasing the pressure, increasing the pressure. If you increase the pressure, vapor turns into liquid. I went on increasing the pressure, increasing the pressure, increasing the pressure. For the first time, I found the first drop of liquid from vapor. Pure vapor, increasing the pressure, I found the first drop of liquid, which would be 37.5 torr as per our problem. Of course, we calculated this as the last drop left out, but if you analyze it from vapor state, it is the first liquid drop left out if you go on increasing the pressure from pure vapor. Now, this point is called dew point, because the liquid drops are considered as dews. That's why this is called dew point. Now, there must be a curve representing the vapor phase, which will be loci of all the dew points at various compositions. And that curve, which represents dew points at various compositions, comes something like this. It will not be straight, it will be a curve like this. Why? See, please understand, this represents the liquid phase, that is mole fractions at XA and XB. This represents the vapor phase, that is mole fractions YA and YB, right? Here, mole fractions XA is equal to half and XB is equal to half. Whereas here at dew point, YA is equal to half, YB is equal to half. That is what we have calculated, if you remember. Now, the relation between total pressure and mole fractions at liquid phase by XA and XB is linear. You remember that. That is, PT is equal to PA naught minus PB naught into XA plus PB naught. This will be nothing but, if you take vapor pressure, total vapor pressure as y-axis and XA as x-axis, it will be nothing but y is equal to mx plus c. So, this relation is linear. Whereas, Just now while solving the second problem, I gave you the relation between YA and YB with PT. We got YA by PA naught plus YB by PB naught is equal to 1 by PT. Does it represent a linear equation? No. So please understand, variation of vapor pressure mole fractions with total vapor pressure of the mixture will not be linear. That's why this curve, which will be called as dew point curve. What is dew point curve here? Loci of dew points at various compositions. Means at a given composition, at what pressure the first liquid drop is formed when you increase pressure from vapor is dew point. At what pressure, at a given temperature, at what pressure the first bubble is formed when you went on relaxing the pressure, decreasing the pressure from liquid. So from liquid, I went on decreasing pressure, I found the first bubble, means vaporization just started, that is bubble point. From vapor, I went on increasing the pressure and first water droplet is seen, that means first condensation has started. That point is called dew point. And bubble point curve represents the liquid phase, that's why it represents the mole fractions at liquid phase, and they vary linearly with pressure, that's why the curve is linear. Bubble point curve is linear. Whereas the dew point curve represents the vapor phase, and vapor phase mole fractions do not vary linearly with total vapor pressure, that's why the dew point curve is like this. This is point number 2 to be noted. Then the most important observations to be made, most important conclusion to be made before I leave this graph and proceed further is, see here, vapor pressure of pure liquid A 75 bar, fixed, definite, single value. Vapor pressure of pure liquid B 25 bar, fixed, definite value. Whereas vapor pressure of mixture of A and B, and by the way, when I am drawing this linear curve like this, what am I representing? Ideal solution or non-ideal solution? Please remember, so far I was talking about ideal liquid-liquid mixture. That's why I draw a curve like this, otherwise I would have shown positive deviation or negative deviation. It won't be linear like this. Because it is ideal, I have shown you linear. And I repeat now what I was about to say. Pure liquid A has got a vapor pressure 75 bar, fixed, definite value. Pure liquid B has a vapor pressure 25 bar, fixed, definite value. Whereas the ideal solution of A and B, does it have a fixed vapor pressure? No. Its vapor pressure varies from 37.5 tar to 50 tar. It started becoming, if you come from the bottom, that is increasing pressure, it started becoming liquid here. And it went on exerting vapor pressure until here, where it became purely liquid later. That way, it is showing a variety of vapor pressures in between 37.5 tar to 50 tar. So conclusion, note, very important note, pure liquids possess definite, or I can say fixed vapor pressure, whereas ideal solution of liquids does not have fixed vapor pressure. It exhibits range of vapor pressures. That is the meaning of it. It exhibits a range of vapor pressures. Good, sir. Very nice illustration, sir. Very nice graph, sir. We have understood bubble point, dew point, everything very nicely. But these are all with respect to vapor pressure, sir. Whereas fractional distillation is separation of component liquids of a liquid-liquid solution based on the difference in boiling point, sir. That means temperature is what matters, sir. But you have drawn an isotherm that is constant temperature with variation in pressure, sir. Then how will this be related to fractional distillation, sir? No, it is not directly related to fractional distillation, children. But I am going to draw a complementary graph. That's why I was saving space there. I am going to draw a complementary graph on the other side. which will be temperature versus composition curve, that means isobar at a constant pressure. How with temperature, with composition, the temperatures will be varying. When we draw temperature versus composition curve is what we will be able to understand fractional distillation better. So let me draw a complementary curve for temperature versus composition at fixed pressure, that is isobar. Okay, if we draw that, we will be going closer to fractional distillation. Okay, I will be doing summation at the end, but even you guys, you rewind the video even 10 times, 20 times required if you are stuck somewhere, if you have doubts anywhere, because I would have explained you anything, I would have explained everything in the order for you. Now, hope you remember the definition of bubble point curve and which one is bubble point curve, definition of dew point curve and which one is dew point curve, because I am rubbing this part of it to facilitate my writing on the other side. Okay. Now, let me draw an isobar. Isobar, that is temperature versus composition graph. Okay. Now, as usual, y-axis in this case, unlike in this graph where y-axis was representing vapor pressure, y-axis in this case represents temperature. X-axis as usual represents composition. Mole fraction of A here is 1 and B here is 0 on the left extreme, same as it is here. Similarly, mole fraction of B is 1 and A is 0 on the right extreme. Now you see, the curve will be exactly opposite to what you can see here, because you know very well the liquid having very high vapor pressure would have a low boiling point. The liquid having low vapor pressure would have high boiling point. Yes or no? So if you assume boiling point of pure liquid A is TA naught and boiling point of pure liquid B is TB naught, then TA naught will be somewhere here and TB naught will be somewhere here. Now I am out of the problem. Now I am not worrying about the numerical values in the problem and all. I have established an information, I have made you understand bubble point, dew point, and I have made you understand a very important point called pure liquids may have definite vapor pressures, but ideal solution of 2 or 3 liquids won't have definite vapor pressure, it will exhibit a range of vapor pressures. After establishing all these aspects, now I am not worrying about the 75 tar, 50 tar, so I am not worrying about value of boiling point of A and value of boiling point of B. But relative values I can tell you, because A has higher vapor pressure than B, A would have lower boiling point than B. Now similarly, the phases also will be reverse. Yes or no? At high temperature what exists? Vapor. So reverse. At high pressure liquid exists, at high temperature vapor exists. Similarly, at low pressure vapor exists, at low temperature liquid exists. So lower parts of the graph represent the liquid, higher parts of the graph represent the vapor. Second point to be noted. Number 3. Now the variation with composition. As you can see, now I can draw a curve like this and another curve like this. Out of this, one will be bubble point curve, one will be dew point curve. We will come to that, but before that, why am I drawing a curve, not a straight line for both of them? Here we have established that for liquid phase, bubble point curve is linear because liquid phase mole fractions vary linearly with the total pressure of the solution. Whereas vapor phase mole fractions do not vary linearly, that's why this was coming a curve. But here, both liquid phase and vapor phase curves will be coming not linear, non-linear. The equations that justify this fact are beyond the scope of our syllabus. So don't worry about them. Just believe that they are not straight lines. They are not linear. That's all. Okay. So boiling point curves will not be linear whether for liquid phase or vapor phase. Now come here. For the same composition which we were talking about, say XA is equal to half and XB is equal to half, if you notice. When at high temperature it was vapor, you went on cooling, went on cooling, went on cooling, went on cooling. at a particular temperature, when you cool the vapor, what should you get? Liquid. At a particular temperature, you saw the first drop of liquid. What would you call that point? You would call it as a dew point, because the first liquid droplet you have seen. Let us call that as some T1 Kelvin. Okay. Now you went on cooling, went on cooling, went on cooling, went on cooling. Completely the vapor has become liquid. You are left with last liquid droplet. Or from the bottom, if you understand, it was a liquid and you went on heating, went on heating, went on heating, went on heating, and you saw the first bubble. Means liquid started vaporizing. You saw the first bubble, say at a temperature T2, then this would be called bubble point. Now obviously you can understand this is a dew point curve and represent the vapor phase, and this is the bubble point curve and represents the liquid phase. So now please understand, here bubble point curve was above, dew point curve was below. Here dew point curve will be above, bubble point curve will be below, because here we are talking about variation in pressure, here we are talking about variation in temperature. I don't think I need to repeat this. Now don't worry, we are yet to reach fractional distillation first. Let us make a conclusion, then I will have to redraw this graph for you to make you understand fractional distillation. That would be the end point of it. Clear? Now you see, I have established the graph here. Now what do you understand? Please observe. Pure liquid A has a definite boiling point, TA naught. Pure liquid B has a definite boiling point, TB naught. Whereas the ideal solution, again we are drawing here for ideal solutions. Whereas the ideal solution doesn't exhibit a definite boiling point, an ideal solution boils in a range of temperatures. Actually, I should have called this as T1 and this as T2 because this is the increasing order. Assume low, 1 is lower, 2 is higher numerically. So, you went on heating, at T1 it started evaporating and up to T2 it went on evaporating, right? That means it is showing a range of boiling points solution. So please understand, the second important note to be made is pure liquids have definite values for boiling points, whereas ideal solutions don't. Then what do ideal solutions show? Ideal solutions show range of boiling points. Means an ideal mixture of 2 liquids or 3 liquids, whatever it may be, shows a range of boiling points. And that becomes the underlying principle for fractional distillation. How? I'll be making you understand by taking this graph again. That is when I am really explaining you fractional distillation. Clear? Hope it is very clear for you. So I'll quickly sum up what we have done so far. See, problem we have solved. How I have solved problem you have understood. How I used Raoult's law and Dalton's law of partial pressure to solve the questions that he has asked, you have understood. From that, what conclusion I have made, that is more important. Okay, so in vapor pressure versus composition curve, there is possibility for 2 curves with variation in pressure at a constant temperature. One curve is called bubble point curve, which represents the liquid phase. Another curve is called dew point curve, which represents the vapor phase. Similarly, if you take the complementary graph, that is an isobar temperature versus composition graph, the dew point curve and bubble point curve will be reversed, but you will have the 2 curves. Only thing is, here bubble point curve is linear, only dew point curve is non-linear, whereas here both are non-linear. Now, we have established 2 important notes that pure liquids have definite vapor pressures, whereas ideal solutions of 2 or more liquids exhibit a range of vapor pressures. As a complementary to that, we have established that pure liquids have definite boiling points, whereas ideal solutions of 2 or more liquids will have a range of boiling points. Now, That will be the underlying principle for fractional distillation. Now let me enter into fractional distillation. Okay. Fractional distillation. You know very well, it is physical separation of components of a liquid mixture based on difference in their boiling points. Based on difference in their boiling points is what is fractional distillation. That we know it since our school, right? Now, what exactly is the principle behind fractional distillation? How exactly they do it and what is the basis for it? That will be understood from the same temperature versus composition graph that I was trying to explain you just now. So let me repeat it. Okay. So, as usual, y-axis represents temperature, x-axis represents composition, and as usual I will assume xa is 1 on the left extreme, xb is 0, xb is 1 on the right extreme, and xa is 0. And like in the previous example only, I could take either ways. Like in the previous example only, I will assume A is more volatile liquid than B. A is more volatile liquid than B. That means in the previous example, vapor pressure of pure vapor pressure in pure state for A was larger than that for B, right? That means A was more volatile, that's why it was having lower boiling point also. Same thing I am assuming. Okay, now as usual, assuming this point represents TA naught, that is boiling point of pure A, and this point represents TB naught, that is boiling point of pure B. Because I have assumed A is more volatile, its boiling point should be low. Okay, a more volatile liquid evaporates quickly, that's why it boils at lower temperature. A less volatile liquid evaporates at higher temperature. Understood, right? Now, this was the dew point curve because at higher temperature we have vapor. This was the bubble point curve because at lower temperatures we have liquid. We went on heating the liquid, it went on vaporizing, and we saw first bubble here. So this is bubble point curve. We went on cooling the vapor and we saw the first drop of liquid here, that is dew, we call it. That's why this will be the dew point curve. This we are clear, right? Now listen to me very carefully. At any given composition, that means, see, my aim is to separate a liquid mixture. Now, I'm in an industry where I am doing the fractional distillation and separating the liquid mixtures. In nature, I am getting those liquids in mixed state. And now I am separating them into pure components so that I can market them as pure liquids in the society. For that to happen, I am getting the mixture right. It might come to me in any composition, in any relative mole fractions of the liquids A and B, right? So, at that composition only I started heating it to distill it. Say, at this particular composition, which I would call it as XA is equal to some P, let me call it, let me write bigger letters. XA is equal to some P, let me call it, XB is equal to some Q, let me call it, just some value. At this composition, I got the liquid mixture to my industry. Now I started separating it. This is the bubble point. For the first time you find the bubble when you start heating the liquid. And this is the dew point, that is first time you find the dew or the liquid when you start cooling the vapor. For this particular composition, let us say. Okay, now I went on heating this liquid mixture at this particular composition up to a temperature which let me call it as some capital T, because I don't, okay, let me call it some TL. I'll tell you why I'm calling it TL. Let me call it some TL. Okay. Now at a temperature called TL, I have heated this mixture to a temperature called TL. Now what is TL? Please observe. TL is a temperature above the bubble point and below the what do you call it, dew point. That means the temperature is in a liquid vapor phase. By now you would have understood, I don't know if I have forgotten to mention in the previous graphs, by now you have understood the area in this region is liquid vapor region, both coexist. Above this only vapor, below this only liquid, you understood, right? So I have heated it to a temperature in liquid vapor region, that is above bubble point, below dew point, in between bubble and dew points. Now I will extend this temperature, this point, on both sides to both curves. On both sides to both curves. Now you observe. This composition against TL, at this temperature called TL, this composition, what does it represent? See, this is dew point curve. This is vapor curve. That means this represents vapor phase composition of A and B, YA and YB. Whereas against TL, what does this point on this curve represent? Let me call this as V, let me call this as L. So this point represents vapor phase composition, this point represents obviously liquid phase composition. So please understand, when I heated this liquid mixture to this particular temperature, I will have both liquids and vapors, and vapor phase composition will be this point and liquid phase composition will be this point. Now let us compare both the compositions. Please observe. YA is equal to, tell me, this value compared to this value at which composition I have taken, compared to that value, YA is closer to X, closer to XA or closer to XB? It is closer to XA, because from left to right what is happening? Mole fraction of A is increasing. That means YA will be some P plus N, some value, some extra value. Yes or no? Whereas from left to right what is happening to mole fraction of B? Decreasing. That means YB will be equal to Q minus N. Means in vapor phase mole fraction of A is greater. Now in vapor phase, I repeat, mole fraction of A is greater, mole fraction of B is lesser than the original composition of the liquid. Now come to liquid phase. You can notice we are going towards decreasing XA when you go to right side. That means in liquid phase, XA will be P minus some M. Means original compared to original composition, some value is lesser. XB will be Q plus M, some value greater. Means what did you notice? When I heated this mixture to a temperature called TL, by the way, this line is called tie line. The line we have drawn from TL to both curves is called tie line. Now, when I heated this mixture to TL, I got a point V on dew point curve at the one end of tie line, and I got a point L on the bubble point curve at the end of tie line. The composition against L, that is on the bubble point curve, represents a liquid phase composition after heating at this temperature. On the composition against V represents vapor phase composition after heating at that temperature. That means I got some liquid left, I got some vapor obtained. I got liquid left and vapor obtained. And if you notice, vapor has got more fraction of A and less fraction of B than the original composition. Liquid has got less fraction of A and more fraction of B than the original composition. Why? We know very well, we have established in the beginning that A is more volatile. So A would have evaporated much faster compared to B. That's why vapors have more A. That's why in liquid phase less A is left out. Because B is less volatile, relatively it would have evaporated less. That's why in vapor phase we have less composition of B, whereas I could see more liquid. Means please understand, the residual liquid is becoming richer and richer with B, the less volatile component. The vapors that I am obtaining after heating is becoming richer and richer with A, more volatile component. Point understood? Now what do? They harvest the vapors that you got here in the vapor phase and condense it. Now that condensed vapors are called condensate or distillate. What do you call it? Condensate or distillate. Now the vapors which were having a composition of Ya, Yb, where Ya was P plus N and Yb was Q minus N, is condensed and it became liquid. Now let me assume the mole fraction of A and B in this as X dash after distillation. Now X dash A and X dash B, which is larger, children? X dash A is larger than X dash B. So the residual liquid has more B, the distillate has more A. Now what do? They further do the distillation of this distillate. When you evaporate this distillate again at any given temperature, what happens? Even the A will be more in vapor phase, B will be more in liquid phase. Likewise, they go on enriching vapors with A and they go on enriching liquid with B, so that at the end, after repeated distillations are required. At the end, after repeated distillation, you will be left with pure liquid A in the residual liquid and you will be left with pure liquid B in the distillate. Vapor condense, there in the distillate you will be left with pure liquid B. That is how fractional distillation is done. Is that clear? So I repeat, if you take temperature versus composition curve, the dew point curve comes above, the bubble point curve comes below, and at any given, I got a liquid in any composition and I heat it to any temperature. Extend that temperature onto both curves and take compositions against them. You will notice that liquid phase will contain more composition of the less volatile liquid, vapor phase will contain more composition of the more volatile liquid. Now that vapor phase will be harvested and condensed. The condensate or distillate now is containing more liquid A, less liquid B. And residual liquid is containing more liquid B, less liquid A. Residual liquid also is continuously distilled. And one side, the distillate also is continuously distilled. So you are generating more and more distillates here and leaving more and more B as pure liquid here. And in every distillate again, residual liquid will be rich with B and vapors will be rich with A. Likewise, finally, in the series of distillates that they get, they will be left with pure liquid A, and series of residual liquids that they got, they will be left with pure liquid B. This is how fractional distillation is done. Now, we have to go to our main topic called azeotropic mixtures. To go to azeotropic mixtures, from the understanding of fractional distillation, you should be left with one very important note. Very important note. What is that? Please observe. We have done all this assuming ideal solution. Did you notice that? We have done all this assuming ideal solution. Now please observe. If fractional distillation has to happen, you can notice that for both the components, the vapor phase comes at any given temperature. At any given temperature, for both the components, vapor phase composition should be different from the liquid phase composition. See here, Ya is different from Xa at temperature TL. Yb is different from Xb at temperature TL. So, each component, their vapor phase composition should be different from the liquid phase composition. Imagine at any given temperature, when tie line did not have, we did not get a tie line only, suppose we got a tie point. Here it was tie line, right, where we got V and L. V represented the vapor phase composition, L represented the liquid phase composition, and they are absolutely different from each other. Two extreme ends they are. That is when residual liquid becomes rich with less volatile liquid, condensate or distillate becomes rich with more volatile liquid. Suppose if there is no tie line, suppose there is a tie point, which I will be showing you within no time. What is a tie point? Suppose there is a tie point, that means YA is equal to XA. YB is equal to XB. That means both vapor phase compositions and liquid phase compositions are same. Then will that be distilled as two separate liquids? Both the liquids will be coming together again. So there is no difference between distillate and residual liquid. Then is fractional distillation happening? No. So for fractional distillation to occur, the vapor phase and liquid phase compositions of a given liquid, of each liquid I can say, of each liquid should be different. Should be different. That means YA should not be equal to XA and YB should not be equal to XB. If they are equal, there is no fractional distillation. Means such mixtures do not distill. Established very clearly. Now this point, this note is the most important conclusion for understanding azeotropic mixtures, by the way. For understanding the azeotropic mixtures, by the way. Now once you establish this point, let me announce it to you very clearly, straight onto your face, that this is absolutely true for ideal liquid solutions. And if you remember the number of examples I have given you in the last session for ideal and non-ideal, there was a much larger list for non-ideal because you had two categories in non-ideal. Each category has much bigger list than the ideal. That means number of ideal liquid solutions are very few. And if it is ideal, this will be true. That means ideal liquid solutions can undergo fractional distillation at all compositions. Underline. I don't have space here to write, so you better write down in your notes. What is that? Ideal liquid solutions undergo fractional distillation at all compositions, because there is no tie point anywhere you see. Everywhere, whichever temperature you take, you can get a tie line. So whether the difference is larger, here to make you understand, I have taken exactly in the center, so the difference was very large. If you take this side or that side, difference will be a little smaller, but difference will be there. So ideal liquid solutions undergo fractional distillation at all conditions or at all compositions. Now let me introduce azeotropic mixtures to you. The hint number one. Ideal solutions do not form azeotropic mixtures, because just now I have established that ideal solutions undergo fractional distillation at all compositions. Now what do you mean by azeotropic mixtures then? They undergo fractional distillation at all compositions and they do not form azeotropic mixture, means I am indirectly telling you that azeotropic mixtures do not undergo fractional distillation. Azeotropic mixtures do not undergo fractional distillation. What does it mean? At that composition, there is no tie line, there is only tie point. That means vapor phase and liquid phase will have the same mole fraction for both component liquids. As a result, what happens? Whether you evaporate it, what happens at that temperature for that composition? They both will come together. That means vapor phase composition, liquid phase composition will be same. That means it will. Just now we established that ideal solutions do not have a definite boiling point, right? But there in that case, it is going to exhibit a definite boiling point. Means it is going to behave like a pure liquid. That is azeotropic mixtures. So obviously azeotropic mixtures are formed by what kind of liquid solutions? You are absolutely right, non-ideal liquid solutions. So I conclude, ideal liquid solutions at all compositions will have different mole fractions for vapor phase and liquid phase. Hence, at all compositions, they undergo fractional distillation. Hence, they show a range of boiling points. They don't show a single definite fixed boiling point. Whereas, non-ideal solutions, even them also, not at all compositions. Any particular composition, they will behave like a pure liquid. Means, their vapor phase and liquid phase composition will be same such that they will evaporate together. They will be separated together so that you can't distill them fractionally. Means this physical method called fractional distillation will not be useful for them. You will have to apply some chemical methods where you can separate one liquid as some other substance, leaving the pure liquid here. That substance can be obtained back by some other chemical reaction. So you will have to apply chemical methods at that particular composition. So non-ideal solutions at some specific compositions behave like azeotropic mixtures. Means they behave like pure liquid, they can't be distilled separately because their mole fractions in vapor phase and liquid phase will be same. Let us understand them. I have spoken in here about azeotropic mixtures because since I have concluded here, it is right time to introduce azeotropic mixtures. Now I'll make it on board. Okay. So azeotropic mixtures. Let me define them, which I have already done orally. Let me write it. Non-ideal solution at a definite composition. I told you already, at all compositions they will not be forming azeotropic mixtures. At any particular composition. So, non-ideal solution at a definite composition which shows a fixed boiling point. That means behaves like pure liquid. Behaves like pure liquid because the composition of liquid and vapor phases is same. Because the composition of liquid and vapor phases is same. So you can understand azeotropic mixtures cannot be separated by fractional distillation. You will have to try any chemical method for the same. Don't worry. Very soon, a clear illustration of this you will learn in alcohols, phenols, ethers chapter of your organic chemistry, where they will be explaining you manufacture of ethanol. When they explain manufacture of ethanol, they will tell you at a particular composition, which I will be taking as example here, at a particular composition called 95% of ethanol, it forms an azeotropic mixture. That's why up to 95% they will do the fractional distillation. Once 95% reaches, that mixture they will take and do some chemical treatment for separating the remaining water from the mixture to make 100% pure alcohol, which is otherwise called absolute alcohol. Same thing here. Now, there are, hopefully this would be sufficient for me to explain. There are two types of azeotropic mixtures. One is minimum boiling azeotropes. Minimum boiling azeotropes. And the second one is maximum boiling azeotropes. Minimum boiling azeotropes and maximum boiling azeotropes. To introduce minimum and maximum boiling azeotropes to you, I should remind you the categories in non-ideal solutions. You have two types of non-ideal solutions. Non-ideal solutions which exhibit positive deviation from Raoult's law. That means show more vapor pressure than expected from Raoult's law. That is because after mixing, the interactions would have become weaker. So previous interactions are stronger, mixture interactions are weaker. Remember? Now, second category are non-ideal solutions with negative deviation, that is solutions which exhibit lower vapor pressure than expected from Raoult's law, and that happens when the new interactions become stronger. Hope this you got recollected. If not, go back, revise and come back, please. Now, when vapor pressure is higher than expected from Raoult's law, then boiling point will be lower, right? Then vapor pressure is lower than expected from Raoult's law, then boiling point will be higher, right? So that is the difference. Minimum boiling azeotropes are formed by non-ideal solutions, non-ideal liquid-liquid solutions with positive deviation. Whereas maximum boiling azeotropes are formed by non-ideal liquid-liquid solutions with negative deviation. This is the first point to be noted. Now, to make you understand this, I will take example of water plus ethanol, a classic example. Just now I told you, very popular in the industry, water plus ethanol. Now, let me draw, I might have to draw a graph a little smaller, but hope understanding will not be hampered. Okay, so temperature in the y-axis, as usual, composition in the x-axis, and let us assume ethanol is 100% on the left side and water is 100% on the right side. Correct? Then obviously you know very well that ethanol is a more volatile liquid, so it would have a lower boiling point. Water is a less volatile liquid, it will have a higher boiling point, right? Now, as we know very well, ethanol boiling point is T naught of ethanol, I can write here, is 351.5 Kelvin, which comes out to be 78.5 degrees Celsius. And water, I need not tell you, T naught of water is 373 Kelvin, which you know very well is 100 degrees Celsius. Now, as I told you, at high temperature there will be vapor, at low temperature there will be liquid, and the vapor curve, which is otherwise called dew point curve, must be like this. Correct? If it were ideal solution, right? The liquid curve, which is otherwise called bubble point curve, must be like this. Correct? If it were ideal solution. Whereas, because it is a non-ideal solution, again you know very well, the equations related to graphs for boiling points are beyond scope of our syllabus. So we need to just understand this is how it is happening. Okay. So the vapor phase curve for this particular mixture comes something like this. Now you see, this region represents liquid vapor, this region represents liquid vapor, and this region also represents liquid vapor, no doubt about it. But the problem is, in this region which is representing liquid vapor, there is a range of temperatures. In this region which is representing both liquid vapor, there is a range of temperatures. Whereas here there is a fixed temperature. So at this particular composition, which as all of us know very well as mole fraction of ethanol will be somewhere, I must have drawn it a little left side because graph is not to the scale, please manage with it. At this particular temperature, mole fraction of ethanol would be 0.944, you can round it up to 0.95, and mole fraction of water will be 0.056, means approximately 95% of ethanol. The temperature here will be 351 Kelvin, which will be lower than 351.5 and lower than 373 also. So at this temperature called 351 Kelvin, at this composition called 0.944 mole fraction of ethanol and 0.056 mole fraction of water, that is 95% of ethanol. I have rounded it off by the way. 95% of ethanol at this composition, at this temperature, the mixture will boil in such a way that in the vapor phase, mole fraction of ethanol and plus mole fraction of water will be same as the liquid phase. Okay. Now, two equality symbols I should put. Okay. Now you understood that in case of minimum boiling azeotrophs, the boiling point of now at this particular composition, the mixture is behaving as a pure liquid. It is exhibiting a definite boiling point. How much is that? 351 Kelvin. Now that boiling point of azeotropic mixture will be lower than the boiling points of both pure liquids because they are showing a positive deviation for vapor pressure. That means it would be negative deviation for boiling point. So vapor pressure would have been greater than both the pure liquids, whereas vapor pressure should be lower than one and higher than the other, lower than the more volatile liquid, higher than the less volatile liquid if it were ideal. Because it is non-ideal with positive deviation, vapor pressure at some point would be more than both. At that point, boiling point will be less than both. And at that point only, at that composition only, it will be behaving like an azeotrope where it behaves like pure liquid. Both of them will have same composition. As a result, it evaporates together. That's why even if you collect the distillate and separate it, even in the distillate, the composition will be same as the pure liquid. So I started with 95% ethanol, heated it by consuming electricity, manpower, everything, and collected vapors and distilled it. So for evaporation as well as distillation, I have spent a lot of time and energy and ended up getting the distillate with again 95% composition. Did I separate them? No. Did I enrich distillate with any one particular liquid? No. That is azeotropic mixture. Happens only at a particular temperature, a particular composition. See, beyond this, in all these compositions, you can distill them. At this composition, you can't fractionally distill it. And that is happening with a non-ideal solution with positive deviation. That is, it is showing lower boiling point than both the pure liquids. They are called minimum boiling azeotropes. Understood? Let us go to maximum boiling azeotropes now. Okay. For maximum boiling azeotropes, I am taking the example of water plus hydrochloric acid. I have already explained in the last class, better you revise it once because this will be having dipole-dipole forces, this will be having intramolecular hydrogen bonds. After dissolving HCl into water, HCl breaks into ions and ion-dipole interactions will be created. Ion-dipole interactions are stronger than intramolecular hydrogen bonds, so new forces are stronger. That means vapor pressure will be lower, negative deviation. Now, as I have already explained you, since for vapor pressure, if it is negative deviation, for boiling point it will be positive deviation, correct? So, as usual, let me take this extreme water is equal to mole fraction of water is 1. This extreme mole fraction of HCl is 1. Okay, now you know very well HCl is more volatile than water as usual. So, this represents T naught of water, which will be 373 Kelvin. This somewhere here represents T naught of HCl, which will be 188 Kelvin. Okay, now you see there is supposed to be positive deviation for boiling point, temperature curve. This is this composition. Positive deviation. Now upwards represents vapor phase, downwards represents liquid phase as usual. This will be your dew point curve, this will be your bubble point curve, right? Now you see dew point curve will be something like this, showing negative deviation from Raoult's law, showing positive deviation in terms of boiling point because negative deviation in terms of vapor pressure. Now, the liquid phase curve, the bubble point curve comes something like this. See, if bubble point curve coming like this, ideally, then at all temperatures, the liquid vapor will be having a range of boiling points. Then always it will fractionally distill. But at this particular composition, where mole fraction of water and mole fraction of HCl, if you check, mole fraction of water will be 0.889, almost 0.89, and mole fraction of HCl will be 0.111, means nearer to water's purity. Okay. Now at this particular composition, what is happening? It is exhibiting azeotropic mixture. That means the vapor phase composition as well as liquid phase composition of both water and HCl will be same. As a result, it will evaporate together. Clear? Now, at this composition, mole fraction of water 0.889 and mole fraction of HCl 0.111, it starts boiling together at a specific temperature called 386.1 Kelvin. Now, we have already established that azeotropic mixtures have a definite boiling point. Now, what is the boiling point at which this azeotropic mixture is going to evaporate? 386.1 Kelvin. So, boiling point of this azeotrope, if you notice, is greater than the pure liquid, that is 373 Kelvin water, and pure liquid, that is 188 Kelvin HCl, as you can clearly notice. So, now that's why for maximum boiling azeotropes, the boiling point of azeotrope will be greater than both the pure liquids. Whereas for minimum boiling azeotropes, boiling point of azeotrope will be lesser than both the pure liquids. Is that clear? Now, again here also, in other any compositions, it can undergo fractional distillation. But for at this composition, if you start evaporating it and collect the vapors also will have the same relative mole fractions of water and HCl. So you have spent a lot on evaporating and you have spent a lot on condensing, and distillate and residual liquid have same composition, you have achieved nothing. That's why once this composition, at this composition, if you have any liquid, you can separate, if you have any liquid mixture, you can separate them only by using chemical methods. You cannot separate them physical methods like fractional distillation. Okay, now let me conclude. See, azeotropic mixtures are the liquid-liquid mixtures which cannot be separated by fractional distillation. Means if you evaporate, it will evaporate at a definite temperature like a definite boiling point like pure liquids, and liquid phase, that is the residual liquid you are left with after evaporation, and the vapor phase that you have collected and condensed and got as distillate, both of them will have the same composition. So there is no meaning in conducting that also, because you are unable to enrich the distillate residual liquid with less volatile liquid and unable to enrich the vapors with more volatile liquid, because they are boiling together and becoming vapors together. Such mixtures are called azeotropic mixtures. Point number 1. Point number 2, they are formed only by non-ideal solutions, because if you notice the graph of ideal solutions, at all temperatures they show a range of boiling points. So at all temperatures you can perform fractional distillation. Sorry, I repeat my sentence. At all compositions, not temperatures, sorry. At all compositions they show a range of boiling points. That's why at all compositions you can fractionally distill them. Whereas now these azeotropic mixtures, these non-ideal solutions at a particular composition, not all compositions, at a particular composition show what I can say, a definite boiling point. That is because vapor phase composition as well as liquid phase composition will be same. That's why their non-ideal solutions behave azeotropic. Then the non-ideal solutions with positive deviation behave as minimum boiling azeotropes, because the boiling point of azeotrope will be less than the boiling point of both pure liquids. Maximum boiling azeotropes, the non-ideal solutions with negative deviation behave as maximum boiling azeotropes, because boiling point of azeotrope will be greater than both the pure liquids. That is for all these reasons. Now, before concluding the session, your examination requirements, because end of the day we will be worried about that, I know. Until definition of azeotropic mixtures and 2 categories and examples, etc., it is purely entrance requirements I have taught you so far. The last part I have taught you, now you know what is there on the board. That is definition of azeotropic mixture, then why they cannot be fractionally distilled, and what is minimum boiling azeotrope example, what is maximum boiling azeotrope example. Only that much is required for board exam. So if I were teaching you only for board exam without all this background, without any clarity of thought, I would have given you a definition, I would have given you examples, I would have given you definitions for each category and examples. I might not even drawn these graphs also. Because we are aiming entrances like NEET, JEE, etc. We need all these things. So completely required for entrances, only this part is required for board exams. Now, before sending you or winding up this video, what I'll do, I'll write few more examples for both the categories. Their pure liquid boiling points, azeotropic boiling point and azeotropic composition. These three columns, few more examples I'll write. Please make a note in your notes. Okay. Please check this list. You can notice the formula for liquid A, formula for liquid B, and at what composition, and here composition is mentioned in percentage by mass of B, that is percentage by mass of this liquid present in this column. Okay, so accordingly you can calculate mole fractions, not an issue. What will be boiling point of pure liquid A, what will be boiling point of pure liquid B, and what will be boiling point of azeotrope. Experimentally determined values. If you remember one example each for board exam, that is enough, and nothing to by heart here. Just for your curiosity and understanding, I have given you all these examples. Okay. Now you can notice all these boiling points for minimum boiling azeotropes will be lesser than these two values, and all the boiling points for maximum boiling azeotropes will be greater than these two values. Okay. Please revise this, children. Very important topic for entrances, and definitions and examples are important for board exams also. Thank you. See you in the next session.